Yo, what's up, everybody? Opening line, part of the Elite Fantasy Sports Networks, Corey and Benny, Fantasy Exec, my man, Benny Ricciardi. So, what's going on with you, Benny?
And not much. Just getting ready for the last major day of the NBA regular season. Got a big write-up today. Got 11 games to do. Magic Johnson is no longer an executive. The Miami Heat are no longer in playoff contention. Steph Curry had a little bit of a scare yesterday going into the playoffs, something that seems to be happening year after year at this point. So a lot of things to talk about today.
Remember last year, I think, was it last year? Who was it? JaVale McGee fell on his knee. JaVale McGee fell on his knee last year. Yeah, you know what? You're right. It's about every other year. It's about every year. The last 3 years has been something going into the playoffs with Steph. I saw on Twitter yesterday him leaving the arena with his ankle taped, but they was like he was walking without a limp. So that a little bit later on, the Magic Johnson stuff and all that. Yesterday was effing crazy though, Benny. So I go down, so I go out to the FanDuel Sportsbook and do all that stuff I had to do, whatever, because I'm like, okay, let me take care of this stuff for them, my son and all of this, whatever. I went and took care of all of that stuff yesterday. And when I was out there after I cashed out, I was like, well, I always like to have a couple of tickets laying around the house, so I'm gonna throw something in. Nothing major, sneaker money. You know what I'm saying? Nothing major. Hit a little parlay, maybe have some nice little dollars to clean up for the weekend. You know what I'm saying? So I went out there, I did that, came back uptown. I got me went to the bank and everything. I got me an excellent nap yesterday. My executive nap was Benny, I can't go from here to New Jersey and not take a nap when I come back. You know what I'm saying? It's like
honestly, when I was a kid and people used to be like, take a nap, I was like, I don't want to take a nap. I want to go play. I want to go do something. Now that I'm old and someone's like, yo, you can go take a nap, I'm like, word? Yeah, I'll take a nap. I'm like, hell yes, I'll do that.
So I'm just like, wow, I can't go to the next state without coming back and taking a nap. So I took my good old nap, got my executive nap. I got up, I got on Uber Eats, you know what I'm saying? Started planning out my night, got me a nice little taco bowl, whatever. The fantasy executive was trying to eat good, you know what I'm saying? Can't have catfish every night.
No.
Was setting up my night and everything, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, let me get on here and get ready to watch these games, and hopefully everything can go out pretty well. Got a couple, hit up the Guru Elite package. Got a couple baseball plays from Rob. I'm good to go. My night is set. I'm getting ready to get rolling and get started.
Okay.
So I had the Hornets -8. Cashed that one pretty easy. The Hornets go over there, did what they had to do. I had the Detroit Pistons money line, Benny.
Oh.
Yo, son. They were down 19 points in the first half.
They were down 22 points at one point. It was 22 was as bad as it got.
Against the Grizzlies G League team.
Yep.
I could not understand that. Yo, the Pistons, if they are they in the playoffs yet?
They are the 8th seed as of now. So there's two teams basically that there's one playoff spot left and only two teams now with Miami being eliminated that can get it. It's the Pistons are the 8th seed at the current moment. If they win today, they're in. If they lose today, though, Charlotte has a tiebreaker against them. So Charlotte, I think the Pistons are 40-41 or something like that, and Charlotte is 39-42.
Yeah.
Charlotte has the tiebreaker. So if the Pistons win, they're in. If the Pistons lose and Charlotte wins, then Charlotte's in. If Detroit loses and Charlotte loses, then Detroit backs their way into the playoffs. So really, if Detroit controls their own destiny, they need to win. If they lose, though, and Charlotte wins, Charlotte knocks them out of the playoffs. The Knicks is
plus 360 on the money line. The Knicks are going to beat the Pistons tonight.
Honestly, after watching that first half last night, because I actually wound up hitting that teaser by about a point, because I think the Pistons won by 7, and I teased it from 10 down to 6.5 or something. So I won that bet by like half a point on that teaser yesterday with them and the Hornets that we talked about. So at one point I was like literally cursing at the television when they were down 20 in that game. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
I had to leave my house because I was going to break the effing TV. The Pistons look horrible, son. Andre Drummond played like he's 72 years old.
Yeah. And he's their best player by far.
Yeah.
By far. Like, it's not even close right now.
What's up with Blake Griffin?
He's been hurt. He's been hurt for like the last 2 or 3 weeks. So even when he plays right now, I wrote this up yesterday in the article too. I'm like, even if Blake plays right now, like he's playing at like 60, 70. Put it this way, if they were already out, he'd already be sitting out and wait until next season.
No doubt.
Like they wouldn't even be chancing it. But because they are literally down to the last day fighting for their playoff lives, they've kind of been letting him play, but he's not 100%.
The Pistons they're a team. This team was the sixth seed in the East the majority of the season. Dwayne, Casey, we both like whatever, but they need some fresh young bodies on that team because those dudes are breaking down. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead.
I was going to say the biggest problem with them, and we said it even coming into the season, is like you have the two big guys down low, right? And you have two guards that are pretty decent. I mean, Reggie Jackson is solid even though he doesn't play any defense, and Nish Smith is a very good backup point guard. The problem with them is they have like D-League caliber wing players, and they have from the beginning of the season. They got rid of a bunch of guys. They basically got rid of the guys they had at the start of the season, right? Like the Stanley Johnsons, the Reggie Bullocks, who were the guys playing those minutes. And then they picked up like Wayne Ellington, who was literally cut from Miami. They're using Luke Kennard, who I like a lot, but Luke Kennard is more of a second unit guy than a guy you really want playing like 35 minutes a game.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do in the offseason. You need to go get some wing players to go with those two big guys.
Yeah, I just don't know how much Andre Drummond has left in the tank, you know what I'm saying? He misses bunny after bunny after bunny underneath the rim, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is getting pretty bad.
He does that to pay. That's how he winds up with 17, 18 rebounds again. He has had the rebounding stats a little bit.
That's true, too. So if you're rostering him for DFS, it ends up working out for you.
Mm-hmm.
I had to leave the house, you know what I'm saying? So I skipped the entire third quarter. I come back to the fourth quarter. I'm like, okay, the Pistons are going to win this game. They cut the lead to 3. Ish Smith starts getting crazy. Luke Kennard starts getting hot. I'm like, okay, bam. We got 2 legs of this down already. You know what I'm saying? Feeling good about it. And then it comes down to the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Benny, that was the worst. That was a gut-wrenching bad beat last night. I was on the Rockets money line, and I'm sitting up here, and I'm like, you never count the money. If you bet on sports, you already know you never count the money, right. Especially in the NBA. I just saw a team come back from 22 in the second half. Mm-hmm. This is the Houston Rockets. Everything James Harden was throwing in the first 3 quarters of that game, I didn't think he could miss. I was sitting up here, Benny, saying to myself, James Harden may be having the greatest offensive season ever.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely make the argument. He is by far the best one-on-one player, the most unstoppable one-on-one player that I have seen probably since Michael Jordan.
Yeah. It's just tween, dribble, tween, step back out, tween, dribble, and then shoot a crazy 3, and there's nothing but net.
The problem is there's no way to guard him, right?
Yeah.
Because if you get up on him, he's got enough quickness and enough strength to get by you and get to the basket and finish. If you play off of him, he's a good enough shooter where he's going to hit those step backs and knock him down. So literally, that's why he's such a good one-on-one player, because you literally can't guard him with one guy. There are very few guys in the league who could even slow him down enough. What you really need is you need a guy with speed, with strength, and with size, like a Kawhi Leonard, like a Paul George. Like those are the kind of defenders that you could put on him to make it a bet. And it's not even like you're going to stop him, like you're not going to keep James Harden to 9 points in a game. Like it's just not going to happen. Your goal, if you're guarding him,
he's going to get 17 from the free throw line.
That's the thing. Your goal, if you're guarding him, you want to try to keep him to around 20, and you want to do it by making him take 20 to 25 shots.
Yeah.
If you can make him take 20 to 25 shots to get his 20, 22 points, then you played great defense on James Harden on that day. That's like the standard of what you have to do against a guy, which only goes to show how good offensively he really is. It's amazing.
So, and I'm sitting up there, listen, they're going into the third, going into the fourth, they're up 12 points. I'm like, okay, this is Oklahoma City. They got Russell Westbrook and Paul George. So it's not over. But I'm like, I'm looking at the way that Chris Paul and James Harden is shooting the basketball. I'm like, it's money line. You know what I'm saying? Fourth quarter started, I said to myself, the spread may be in trouble, but the money line was the way to go. You know what I'm saying? I have a ticket to cash this weekend when I go put down some futures for the NBA playoffs.
Chris Paul was shooting well that game too. He had 5 or 6 threes in the first couple quarters, and then he kind of went cold in the fourth quarter too. They just kind of fell apart in the fourth.
They scored 16 points in the fourth quarter.
What I'm saying, they fell apart like that. And again, the Rockets are a team that has a very efficient offense. Like 16 points in 12 minutes out of the Rockets that's almost unheard of.
No, they have 36-point quarters. They've had 40-point quarters this year. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Let me make sure I have that number exactly correct. I know when I looked at it, it was 16, but I was in so much disgust. You know what I'm saying? Because the way it played out for me, it was wild because I'm getting ready to, finish my night off. You know what I'm saying? I got my package being delivered. I might take a trip across town. You know what I'm saying, Benny? So I'm like, let me just bring this one in, and then I can go ahead and get my evening started. They scored 18 points in the fourth quarter. They scored 18 points in the fourth quarter.
Well, you know what? That's how you blow what they have, a 12-point lead going into it, right? That's how you blow a 12-point lead right there. You lose a quarter 30 to 18, and then you lose the game by 1.
The Grizzlies G League team last night scored 36 points in the second half.
Again, that's how you blow a 22-point lead and wind up losing the game. I mean, when I looked at that, I thought they had the score wrong. Like I went and double-checked. I was like, wait a second, did they have that backwards? Is it 77 Pistons and 55 to Memphis? And I was in shock. I was like, man, you're playing for your playoff lives, and you're about to lose by 20-something points to a Memphis team that's playing without, like, their 4 best players. I'm like,
they had their G League dudes. They had their G League dudes playing last night.
Yeah.
And, the fans in Detroit, I mean, the boos was loud in the timeouts. I was like, oh, man, it sound like Citi Field. So I'm getting down to the end of the game. Things are starting to get tight. But, I'm running around, I'm doing things, I'm in and out, I'm sending text messages, whatever. So finally, my package arrives. They had a 5-point lead. I came back in the house, Benny, they was losing by 1. Yep. I was like, what's going on? James Harden misses a free throw, misses a wide open 3, and that right there on the second to last day of the NBA season was my worst beat of the year.
Hey, mine goes back to that Purdue game at the end a couple of weeks ago. I lost a little bit of money on that, but whatever. Yeah, it's crazy at the end of the season. The funny thing is too, like OKC really needed that win because OKC is basically fighting for the 6, 7, 8 spot. They were in the 6th seed. With that win last night, I think they still have a chance to get up to the 5. I think Utah needs to lose today and they have to win. So it's not likely to happen, but they at least kept it alive. What that loss for Houston basically did last night, though, was guarantee the Denver Nuggets are going to have the number 2 seed. Yeah, which also creates a problem for us in DFS tonight because now the Nuggets are going to wind up sitting all their starters, and we're going to have to try to figure out which of the value guys like the Trey Lyles and the Mason Plumlees we really want to play tonight.
Now, the NBA does not reseed in the second round, right?
No, they don't. You go by whatever the matchup was supposed to be that you had. Yeah.
Now Benny has an empty chair right now. I'm holding it down.
I had to go get a tissue. I had to go get a tissue. My allergies have been acting up on me.
Oh, no, the allergies is brutal in the city right now. Pollen is undefeated, Benny. You know what I'm saying?
Every year, man. It wins the championship every year around this time at my house.
Yes, son. Pollen is cutting down the nets. I'm over here sniffling too. So they don't reseed in the NBA. I saw on Twitter like this will set up a second round matchup between the Rockets and the Warriors. I'm like, no, that would still be a conference final matchup. Because
right now, I got to double
reseed right now.
Yeah, I got to double check on if I don't know how far Portland is behind the Rockets. It's only a game or 2, I think. I don't know if they have a chance to go up. It's a 1 game, so they may have a chance to go ahead. I don't know how the tiebreaker is with those 2. But most likely it's going to be the Warriors and then the winner of that 4-5 series, and then the other matchup in the second round is going to be Denver and Houston, which would be a good one.
Yeah, that'd be good. And then you'll have the Portland joint. And then but the bottom of this, Houston and OKC in the first round, we just saw that last night. That'd be interesting. Denver and San Antonio, the way it sits right now on the last day of the season, and Warriors and the Clippers rounds out the Western Conference. Denver, San Antonio. Man, I would have liked to see Denver versus somebody a little bit tougher in that first round. But I don't think San Antonio has enough to take them out. You know what I mean?
Well,
go ahead.
To me, the most interesting one's the 4-5 matchup because you got Portland, who I mean, CJ McCollum came back. I don't know how healthy or how good he's going to be for the playoffs because they brought him back. He was playing like 20 minutes the last couple games. There's still no Nurkic, but they play Utah. Utah's a tough team. Like Utah has these stretches on offense where they just look ugly and they just don't score. So that series could honestly go either way. Like, to me, that's a straight coin flip. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if either one of those teams wins that series.
That's a 7-game. I think that's a 7-game series right there. I would give the nod to the Portland Trailblazers because they have the best player on either team.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's what it comes down to a lot of times in the playoffs, right? At the end of a game, if you're asking me who I want the ball, whose hands I want the ball in on either one of these teams, I mean, I love Donovan Mitchell, but Damian Lillard offensively is cold-blooded in those spots.
Damian Lillard, you saw the Athletic had the vote, the NBA player vote. Damian Lillard was voted the most underrated player in the NBA, and by the players.
Right.
The players also voted Russell Westbrook as the most overrated player in the NBA.
I mean, I could see it. Like, again, Damian Lillard playing out in Portland, never really on primetime television. Their home games start late, especially on the East Coast. Like, that's, if you're watching a 10 o'clock basketball game, there's usually two of them on. It's usually Portland and Golden State. And I got to be honest, as much as I love basketball, the big TV is always the Golden State game, and the little TV is always the Portland game. But
100%, and that's why a series against the Warriors would be good for them. Dame is from Oakland, so he always plays good games in Oracle Arena. And the thing about it is, I like Dame and I like Portland in that series, but Utah's home court advantage is rough.
Yeah, it's next to Denver. It's actually been the toughest place to play, especially when you're going back-to-back, when you have to travel during the season to go there. I guess the elevation, it's not as high as Denver, but apparently there's something with the elevation there too where, guys just get tired going in there and playing. And then, again, they're a good defensive team too, even though they're not the defensive juggernaut they have been in years past, mostly because their pace is a little bit higher this year. But that's still a tough defense. I mean, you got Rudy Gobert in there. He's long. He's athletic. He blocks shots. He changes shots. They got a lot of guys on the perimeter that play good positional defense. They're not so much one-on-one. I mean, like Joe Ingles is not the guy who I want defending, the other team's best player on a game-winning shot or anything, but they understand how to play as a team. Rubio, those guys all have hands. They all play passing lanes. It's not an easy defense to crack.
No, I think it's like I said. I think it's a 7-game series. I give the slight edge to Portland, and in the Eastern Conference, whoever gets the 8th seed is going to get swept by the Bucks. Yep. Toronto and Orlando probably going to be a sweep also.
That one, I mean, I expect Toronto to win that series. I don't know if Orlando's played really well the second half of the year. Like they made a nice little run. But again, Toronto wins that series. I
think Orlando will cover spreads in this series.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think they're a decent team. Put it this way, Orlando's doing things right. They're on the way up. They're not there yet though. They're not going to bang with the big boys this year, but that's a team that I like for the future. Keep an eye on them.
Maybe about 6 or 7 weeks ago, Orlando was plus 400 to win the division.
Really?
Yep. Straight up. I remember looking at that, and I was like, wow, it's interesting. I didn't play it, though.
Like I said, they've played well. The second half of the year, they played really well. Like, Vucevic is a legit, scoring threat inside and outside. Aaron Gordon is very good. Jonathan Isaac, who is actually out with a concussion, should be back for the playoffs, though. Like, he's had a really good end of the season. Fournier's solid. Terrence Ross can score. And then even like DJ Augustin he's playing well. I mean, he's probably not the long-term future point guard for them, but he's solid for them right now. That's a decent team. I don't think they go anywhere this year, but that's a decent nucleus.
Yeah, I think their team on the come. I would agree with you on that. I think Philadelphia and Brooklyn can be interesting. I think a lot of people are going to try to be on Brooklyn in that series. But the truth of the matter is, Philadelphia is just better than Brooklyn. They are. Mm-hmm. It's better than them. You know what I mean?
With the exception of maybe the guard play, I mean the front lines aren't. It's not even close between.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to take multiple injuries for them to lose that series, in my opinion. And one of them will be Embiid. Like if you lose Embiid, Jimmy Butler, and Ben Simmons, that'll be a series.
Brooklyn would have to win both games in Brooklyn. and I don't see them winning both games in Brooklyn. I think it's a 5, maybe a 6-game series. But Philadelphia get the job done in Boston, Indiana, and then obviously tomorrow we'll know how it all finally stands out. So that was kind of that bad beat. Two of my worst beats this year have been the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets and the Warriors way back in the beginning of the season when they had that furious comeback. I had that comeback blew up 2 parlays, and that would have been a big night. And then last night was just like, my goodness. So then I said to myself, okay, well, that was just the ticket. I still have the app. I got some bets on the app. Remember I said yesterday that the Pistons can't beat nobody by 10 points? So I was on Memphis. That hits.
Okay, yeah. They only won by 7. That's good.
Need the second leg of the parlay. I felt comfortable with. So I go to check the FanDuel account. So I click on it, and I'm like, okay, they didn't put the money in there yet. All right, fine. So I hit live, and I'm like, there's only one baseball game going on. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, the game must have just ended, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, take some time, right.
Yeah, take a couple seconds.
Yeah.
The last leg of that parlay was the Texas Rangers.
Oh, man.
They got walked off last night.
I know. I saw that. That's why I said, oh, man, that's a tough one. Hey, you know what, though? I always said, like, if I'm going to have a bad night, I want to have a brutally bad night.
Yeah, get it all out the way once.
Yeah, like, I don't want to win 9 out of 10 where I was this close to walking away with, like, 4 or 5 figures. I want to lose, like, 8 out of 10 and just lose all my money because then you get it out of the way, right? You get all the bet, have all the walk-off home runs against me, have all the buzzer beaters, have all that stuff happen in one night where, like, you just sit there and you go, you know what? Today wasn't my day. Because then you know you got it out of the way. Tomorrow, then you hit all your bets and you're good again.
I benefited on Virginia 2 nights ago. Last night, it came back and it bit me. You feel what I'm saying?
You called it the other day. That's the gambling gods. You know, they give you one day, they take it away the next. That's why
right
this is easy.
No, exactly. And that's why when Vegas Dave fraud ass talk about he hit 75%, you cannot hit 75% at this. You can't. Because because of walk-off home runs in the bottom of the 9th inning.
Yeah, you know, and that's always the dead giveaway for me, right? Like, anytime you hear somebody talking about 70, 80, 90% winners, you're like, get the hell out of here. Because if you've been doing this long enough, you know, like I said when we talked about it the last time, if you're hitting 65, you're on a hot streak. If you're hitting 65% winners, you know, you're basically cash in hand over fist at that point in time. You know, if you can get to 60, you're going to be a profitable sports bettor.
Very profitable. You know what I'm saying? So, and then 60, you can probably do that for a stretch. To do that all along is going to be tough, but we'll give you your best shot right here on the Elite Fantasy Sports Network, whether you're doing DFS, EliteFantasy.com, the betting, GuruElite.com is going over there. Cats getting ready for the Masters and the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs also coming up, and then you got the baseball going every day. And don't forget, for you season-long guys, getting ready for the NFL draft is FantasyGuru.com. Please subscribe to the Guru Elite YouTube page where we rock out right here. This video will be in your inbox every afternoon, every morning, whatever the case may be. So yesterday, Benny, obviously the big news in sports. We still got plenty of hoops to talk about. I want to talk about Dirk, and I want to talk about Dwayne Wade, obviously. Also, I want to mention Jamal Crawford, too. Let's not forget about Jamal Crawford. Because, Benny, matter of fact, I'm going to start with Jamal Crawford.
Let's go.
He had 51 last night. How old is Jamal Crawford?
I mean, he's got to be close to 40, right? Because I
think Jamal Crawford's 38 years old.
Put it this way, I'm almost 40. I'm fastly approaching 40, and I remember Jamal Crawford being in college, watching Jamal Crawford sitting in my dorm room when Jamal Crawford was in college at Michigan. So he's got to be about the same age as me, you know, 1 or 2 years older or younger at most.
I think at some point they're going to name the Sixth Man of the Year award, the Jamal Crawford Sixth Man of the Year award. He puts up 51 last night. Son is 38 years old. That's crazy.
So what's crazy is there were a lot of people who –
Benny, he is buckets.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. You know, there are a lot of people who didn't play him in DFS last night, which made no sense to me. He was in my cash game write-up. That's how confident I was in him. You know, when Devin Booker went down, they got a bunch of, like, athletic wing pieces, but not guys that could actually score consistently. Even at 38 years old, Jamal Crawford is just buckets. Like, he just gets in the game and he puts up points. I still don't think people are like, oh, is he going to retire? if you can go out there and drop 35 points, like he did, and drop like 25 points in some of these recent games while playing like 25 minutes off the bench, you're going to find the spot for yourself. Like, this is just what Jamal Crawford does. It's what he's always done. Maybe he's not doing it at the same level he did when he was younger. Maybe he can't be a guy that plays 30 minutes anymore for you. But Jamal Crawford is he's like a Manu Ginobili. Like, this guy can play until he decides he doesn't want to play, because he's always going to be able to get some buckets for you.
Take care of his body well. The kid can light up the score. Not the kid. The man can light up the score sheet. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Jamal Crawford. But the Magic Johnson thing, man, that really took everybody by surprise. I text you when that happened. I'm like, yo, what is going on with the Lakers, yo?
Well, there's two things that I want to say here, right? So one is, no offense, and I mean, I love LeBron James. I'm a big LeBron guy.
Don't do it. I can't. You know how I am when it comes to LBJ.
I mean, again, I love him too, but everywhere LeBron James goes, he tries to put his fingerprints on the, behind the scenes stuff, the front office kind of stuff with the basketball. So there's definitely some friction there. I don't think anybody can doubt that. We've heard a lot of stories coming out of it this year about, he's not happy with the team that they have and things like that. The other thing I'm going to say too is, you and I are old enough to remember Magic Johnson, the basketball player, before he got AIDS or HIV and all that stuff, right? Always with a smile on his face, always joking around, always happy, always the life of the party, right?
Magic.
Exactly. The Magic, not like he used to say himself, not Irving, not the guy Irving, Magic. That's who the Magic Johnson persona is. That's not who he is right now. He's not having fun with the role that he has, So here's the other thing too, is Magic Johnson, a lot of people don't know this. Magic Johnson is like a billionaire.
Yeah.
Not just because of the money he made playing or the money he made on his old Converse deal with the yellow and the purple sneakers. He started a whole bunch of businesses in the community. He owns.
Magic Johnson's one of the original investors in Starbucks.
Yeah, and I mean, and he owns shopping malls. He owns movie theaters in and around the Los Angeles area.
Magic Johnson Theater is about 2 minutes from where I am, like a 2-minute walk from where I'm standing is the Magic Johnson Theater. But everything inside that little area that has the Magic Johnson Theater is owned by Magic Johnson. It's a Buffalo Wild Wings over there. It's a Chuck E. Cheese on one side of it. You know what I'm saying? And it's owned by Magic Johnson.
Yeah, so this is a guy who's been successful in business even outside of basketball. He went back to basketball because he misses that. And I understand that too. If you played a sport and you've been around the sport all the time and you got, fame and notoriety from being, an athlete in that sport, you want to be around it in some capacity. The problem is Magic is one of those guys that I don't want to call him a control freak because that's not the word I want to use, but he's one of those guys that he needs to be front and center. You know what I mean? He needs to be the man. Things need to be on him. He's playing a secondary role here with the Lakers where it's more like a showcase piece kind of thing where, I feel like he's not being given the reins to make the actual decisions himself, but he's getting a lot of the blowback for some of the things that didn't go right. He was one who brought LeBron here, which obviously hasn't worked out all that well since they didn't make the playoffs. And he's getting hatred for it. He's the one who wanted to draft Lonzo Ball, which again, hasn't really worked out all that well. And he's getting hatred for it. Magic's always been a guy who thrives off of being loved, right? Thrives off of thrives off the public loving him and the big smile and all that. I don't really think he likes the fact that he's not in control, but yet he's getting a lot of the negative blowback for what's going on right now.
He's the face of it, and I think you make some very good points there, Benny. I find it interesting that he said he didn't talk to Jeannie Buss or anybody, kind of you know what, I'm not going to be here. That was a great line. Everybody talking about next year, and he thinking to himself, well, I ain't going to be here. That's like when you're taking off of work, you're taking off of work one day, but you ain't telling nobody else. You're like, y'all can be by yourself. But, I knew LBJ was going to be in the center of this or going to take a lot of the brunt of this. I don't know what LBJ knows about this. I did read this morning that he met with LeBron James and, of course, Rich Paul on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, that was Saturday. Yesterday was Tuesday. Listen, this Rich Paul might be more powerful than the commissioner.
Well, go ahead. I mean, you know more about it than me, so you go ahead. What's the deal here with this?
It seems like whenever there's some NBA movement or something going around, somewhere deep below the surface is Rich Paul. You know what I'm saying? Sitting around.
I was going to say his name is always involved in it. And even being somebody who's big on the NBA right now, like, I can't even tell you what he actually does. Like, I know he's an agent and all that stuff, but how does he have this much influence is my question.
He came up. So basically what happened was he came up as, like, I don't want to say he was a runner back in Ohio. He was back in Ohio. He was a guy that knew everybody on the high school and the youth basketball scene back in Ohio. So LeBron was like, you know, come roll with us. So when he comes roll with LeBron, I think LeBron, I forgot who LeBron's original agent was. LeBron told his original agent, I want to have Rich Paul work with you. Basically, I want Rich Paul to learn everything that you do. So he said, all right, the company paid Rich Paul $5,000 a month, and Rich Paul just basically followed this LeBron's original agent, who name skips my mind now. So, you know, as he learns the business, learns the sneaker trade and stuff like that, all the ins and outs of basketball, he comes back to LeBron and like, listen, I think I'm ready to go. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm ready to go.
And that's when they started the agency, right?
And that's when he said, you know what? I'll leave my agent. We'll start Clutch. And then they get Ben Simmons and yada, 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 yada. And that's how the legend of Rich Paul begins to grow. Going to be interesting to see who Zion signs with. I know they've been heavy on Zion, but everybody's been heavy on Zion.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be, yeah.
Exactly. Who wouldn't want to be, because you know that sneaker deal going to be crazy. So that's kind of how Rich Paul cut his teeth. He is not like on the business side with Maverick Carter and those other cats. He is front and square and center, the basketball guy, the agent, the kind of the dude that.
So he's the deal. He's basically the wheeler and dealer of the group. He's the one. He's not handling the actual crossing the T's and dotting the I's on the contracts. He's the one out there making moves and making things happen.
When it was time, when LeBron became a free agent on July 1st last year, when the fax machine started going off, those faxes were coming into Rich Paul. Rich Paul then goes and he sat down with Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson and laid out a plan of what it was going to be for LeBron James on the basketball player. Maverick Carter handles LeBron James, the businessman. So, and then, you know, obviously the Anthony Davis thing and yada, yada, yada. The kid is always in the news, and it seems like he is more or less the underground commissioner of the NBA. But you know what? The thing about it is, listen, it's not going to be Kobe Bryant. I saw that this morning a lot. It's not going to be Phil Jackson. LeBron James despises Phil Jackson. So this Phil Jackson is never going to be a part of it. I think they need to go out there and get them a real, live, legit general manager. And Benny, you would have to be brave to do it because of what took place a little bit over a year ago. But I think the guy is Jerry Colangelo.
Interesting. I mean, listen, he's been around long enough. He knows the league. He knows the players involved. He knows the moves to make. He's got to stop
basketball.
Yeah, he's got to stop. He's got to stop with the burner accounts.
The burner accounts killed him.
Those can't come with you there, you know. But I don't think it's crazy. I mean, he definitely is somebody who has experience, and that's kind of what you need right now, right? Like with this team that they have, you don't want to go get some new guy or somebody who's fresh and trying to learn the business. Like you got a couple more years of LeBron James, you know, just a couple. Like he's not playing for another 10 years. You got maybe 2 or 3 more good years that you can get out of LeBron, and that's a maybe. So you need to go and make moves and make things that can happen now. So Colangelo being around and knowing, you know, how to make some of those moves and being there and having those relationships, now is probably the good time to go get a guy like that rather than trying to break somebody new to the business in.
Yeah, no doubt. And like I said, he knows everything. He's an NBA insider. He has built teams. Like, he's very good at what he does. Burnagate kind of messed it up. But don't get me wrong, Elton Brand is doing a fabulous job right now. But, you know, he built that Philadelphia 76ers. The process was Jerry Colangelo. So I think he'd be I think his name should come up. But listen, that's a tough hire because the locker room is going to be like, okay, where's the burner account at? You know what I'm saying? So, but I just think, and then his connection with USA Basketball also, I think, makes him very appealing to some of the players if they can put the burner gate behind them.
See, the problem with him, though, especially coming off of a big scandal like that, like when you come off of a big scandal, your next job needs to be in, like, Tennessee, Utah, somewhere where you're out of the spotlight. Like when you're coming off a scandal and you go to a New York or an LA or a Chicago, one of these big cities with big medias, like you know you're gonna answer that question a 1,000 times in the next
First one.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be the first question, and they'll keep asking it no matter what your answer is anyway. So.
Yep. So you're right about that part. I think that makes it tough. But listen, listen, Magic said, listen, it wasn't, I couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? I do think there's more to it. That meeting with Paul and James, I find out to be interesting. And, me, the way I feel about LeBron James, I'm like, I know LeBron is like, I'm glad I'm not there. I'm glad I'm not going to the playoffs because I don't want to answer any of these questions. Mm-hmm. But these questions, somebody's going to find you and they're going to put a microphone in your face, LeBron.
Yeah, and I mean, here's my thing with Magic, right? It's like Magic's a billionaire who likes to have fun, and he's not having fun. So if he's not having fun, why would he keep doing this? You know what I mean? Like, people that are like, oh, why is Magic leaving? Magic's leaving because Magic has options. It's not like Magic's making minimum wage and he doesn't have another job that he can go to or he's not going to be able to feed his family. Like, he was doing this because he liked basketball, and he's looking around saying, this isn't fun. I don't like doing this. It's not working out here for me. I'm just going to go move on and do something else that I want to do. And I don't knock him for that either.
Son, if I would have told you back in 1992 that we'd be talking about Magic Johnson in 2019, son, when it's amazing that when people discuss Magic Johnson, they don't even mention the fact that the man has AIDS.
Well, I mean, does he even have them anymore? I mean, he's lived for 30-something years with that. Like, if you told me we would be talking about Magic in 2019, I would have thought it would have been the 25th anniversary of Magic Johnson's death at that point that, would have been the reson why we're talking about it. And not that I'm wishing that. I love Magic Johnson, so don't get me wrong. I'm not wishing death on the guy or anything. But, yeah, I mean, I remember watching that press conference. And at the time – yeah, at the time, like, we were sitting there like, oh, my God, like, this is like a death set. Like, at the time, AIDS was a big thing and HIV. Like, we were sitting there like, oh, my God, Magic Johnson's going to die, like, soon. Like, within, like, the next 6 or 8 months, we were all like, by next basketball season, Magic Johnson's going to be dead. Like,
That's how ignorant people were to the disease. But
I would put me in that list, man. That's what I thought when I watched that.
Oh, son, I don't want to say his name. A good friend of mine, we had a buddy that passed away of HIV back in the 90s, and a very good friend of mine was like, we was in college, right? And he was like, son came and sat next to him, and he got up and changed seats. And I'm like, yo, son, that's the most ignorant thing ever. But
remember the next season? The next season after that announcement, they let him play in the All-Star game, and it was like a huge deal. Like, well, what if he's sweating and I get his sweat on me? Am I going to get HIV? Am I going to die? What if he goes to the basket and I hard foul him and he bleeds onto me and I get blood on me? Am I going to get HIV? Like, there were players that were legit like, I don't want to play in this game if Magic Johnson's playing.
It was Karl Malone, son. It was Karl Malone.
Well, it was more than just Karl Malone. There was a bunch of guys that were saying that stuff. It was, and you know what? In that way, it's never a good thing, and I don't want to like say, oh, Magic getting HIV was a good thing. Like, obviously, it's never a good thing, but having an ambassador for it, like Magic Johnson, who brought that much attention to the disease and everything, really did go a long way to kind of explaining to the average person like what HIV was and what what the deal was with it and how to prevent it and how to stop it. I mean, again, it's silver lining to a bad situation. And again, the guy's still alive. Like, back then,
Magic Johnson got healthier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Multi-billionaire, a philanthropist. You know what I'm saying? And he's just going to go down as one of the greats of all time. So shout out to Magic Johnson. Whatever you do next, Magic, I'm sure you will be okay. Dwayne Wade, that was great, man. Wade County, the thing with his son, he dropped 30 points last night. The Budweiser commercial, and you just see how impactful Dwayne Wade, and definitely after the Parkland shooting, you know what I'm saying? Wade County, just like he was just so much to that community, you know what I'm saying? And it was good to see Dwayne Wade get a chance to go out like that last night.
So you know what, though? I will say this, man. It's time to retire when you have a little trouble jumping up on that. Did you see that?
That was wild.
I mean, he's done it so many times before. And when you can't get up there, that's how you know, like, all right, it's probably time for me to hang it up. Now, but all respect, I remember him back in college at Marquette.
At Marquette, he was a baller, yo.
He was awesome. And then he came into the league. I mean, again, won the championship. Played alongside LeBron. He's a hell of a player. He's always been a hell of a player. It's nice to see him get his, kind of have his due right there. Guy's won gold medals. He's won NBA championships. He's been first-team All-NBA player.
He won MVP, has he?
I don't think he ever has, to be honest. I don't think he ever has.
Either. That's the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
But his career was great. Won championship with LeBron James. Won a championship with Shaq. They go down 0-2 to the Mavericks. They win 4 straight to win that championship. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade. You know what I'm saying? And now you see, now his son will step in. I think his son is probably about three years away from the NBA. Yeah, about 3 years away from the NBA.
He's like 15, 16, right? His kid.
I think his son's a year older than LeBron James' son. So you're right, about 15, 16 years old. So he's about 3 or 4 years away from the NBA for Zaire Wade. He plays, as a matter of fact, he plays semi-pro summer league. So he's already been on the court with pros, and the kid does have some game. Obviously, you are a descendant of Dwayne Wade. You should be able to play a little bit, you know what I mean? So now that's it right there, Benny. Dwayne Wade, he gets it. He got it done. And it was just good to see, you know, how, like, you know, I was happy when he left Cleveland and came back to Miami. I was like, that's where Dwayne Wade should be.
Yeah, I mean, he was, you know, he had a lot of success in the city of Miami. Again, you know, you're a professional athlete. You can live in a state with no sales taxes, and you can hang out and live in Miami. I mean, the guy's married to Gabrielle Union. Dwayne Wade has a really, really good life. Like, he's winning at life. He's done all right for himself. He's a guy I wouldn't mind trading lives with.
Yeah, you know he got that side baby though. That nobody don't know.
You know, like I said, I would not mind trading lives with him.
Hey, everybody was like, "Yo, we'll take Dwayne Wade to be getting caught sneaking around Miami." But hey, listen, it worked out.
It's Miami, man. It's not like he's living in Wichita, Kansas. It's Miami. There's a lot of beautiful
right,
in Miami.
Exactly. That's kind of a place where that would happen at. Dirk Nowitzki, is he the best foreign-born player? International player ever? I think it's between him and Manu.
I mean, do you count Tim Duncan in the Virgin Islands as international, or is he an American?
That's U.S. Virgin Islands.
I'm pretty sure U.S. Virgin Islands. Yeah. So I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, I would say I don't know. That's a good question.
But listen, I mean, Dirk, for all intents and purposes, Dirk's what, like the top 6 in the league all time in scoring. He's won his championship. He's won his MVP. The guy's been around since he was like 19, 20 years old. So he's been in the league for close to 20 years at this point. You know, I mean, again, one of the first big guys to kind of make shooting from the outside a thing, and now everybody kind of wants to do it.
Stretch 4.
Yeah, that little one-footed fadeaway that was unstoppable for a while because you just
Carmelo Anthony, the one Carmelo Anthony stole from him.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you're that big and you're that long and you can shoot that well, like when he leans back, I don't care how big you are, how long your arms are, you can't block it. And the fact that he doesn't miss, I mean, that shot is near unstoppable. Like Jordan used to do that little like half turn when he got into the post that was able to use his shoulder to kind of create enough space to get that shot up. Dirk did it with his leg. Like Dirk used to do it by kicking the leg out, but it's the same thing. If you can create enough space to get your shot up and you're that good a shooter like these guys were, it's almost unstoppable, that move. So, you know, even last night, Dirk came out last night at like the first 10 points in that game. Like the guy could still score. You can put together, I'm going to start an over 40 league team in 2 years. I'm going to get Jamal Crawford. I'm going to get Dirk Nowitzki. We're going to be unbelievable.
They probably beat some of these college basketball teams. We seen jacking up them threes last weekend.
I'll tell you what, I would break all-time assist records with those 2 guys finishing.
Oh no, definitely. You know what I'm saying. And speaking of, that's funny. I just mentioned. I thought about Carmelo. I mentioned Carmelo Anthony's name. Yo, why does Carmelo Anthony not playing basketball no more? Has the NBA transformed to where Carmelo Anthony's skill set is no longer needed?
Now, see, I think the biggest problem that a lot of people have with Carmelo Anthony is that you still think of Carmelo Anthony as like, because LeBron is still like kind of peak LeBron and Chris Paul is still kind of peak Chris Paul. Carmelo Anthony his skills have declined way more than some of these other guys did. I don't know if he just like got happy and got fat living in New York and not really caring. But I mean, every year, right? Like the last couple years, he's been like a major addition to teams like the Rockets and the Thunder. And you were like, oh man, Carmelo Anthony's going to have a big year playing alongside of this stud and this stud and this stud. But the reality of Carmelo Anthony right now is he's a standstill corner jump shooter that doesn't rebound and doesn't play defense.
That's the problem. See, you got to be if Carmelo Anthony would have to be a 3-and-D guy. You don't play defense. That's
and you don't rebound. So if you don't rebound, you don't play defense, and your offensive skills are diminishing. Like, what's your upside? I mean, there's I hate to say it, but there's a whole bunch of 22 to 24-year-old kids coming out that at least will play defense and make that same shot that you're making. So why am I paying?
And do you don't have to pay them $14 million a year?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it all season. It's one place that I think Carmelo Anthony game would work right now, and I think he would have been interested in going. Carmelo's game would work with the Raptors because on the Raptors he doesn't have to play defense. He can come over there, he can stand in the corner, he can knock down that shot, he can give them a guy that can make a bucket in a clutch moment. I think the Raptors would have worked. But see, the problem is when you bring Carmelo Anthony in, if you go on a 2-game loser streak, it's Carmelo Anthony's fault.
Well, I mean, and the other problem with Carmelo Anthony now, too, is do you really want Carmelo Anthony being, like, a major part of your team? Like, if Carmelo Anthony said, I'll play 15 minutes a game and come in and just, be the second unit guy and you can play me, like, the first 5 minutes of the second quarter to give somebody a break and the first 5 minutes of the third quarter to give somebody a break, but I don't want to start and I don't want to be in clutch time and I'm willing to just take, like a secondary bench player kind of role, somebody would pick him up. The problem is he doesn't want one of those roles. He still wants to be treated like I'm going to start to play 35-minute Carmelo Anthony, and he's not that guy anymore. Like 35-minute Carmelo Anthony, the reason why the Thunder and the Rockets kind of let him walk away is he had one of the worst plus-minuses in the entire league because he doesn't do anything on the defensive end. He doesn't stop anybody. He's not a good weak-side help defender where he's, helping everybody else out. He hinders your defense more than he helps you on offense at this point in his career. With the Knicks, he still didn't play defense, but he was dropping 30 and getting you buckets, so you could be like, all right, his offense outweighs his bad defense. Now it's to the point where his offense no longer outweighs how bad his defense is.
And the paycheck, they're cutting the big check.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you're putting Carmelo Anthony out there and you can't pay a dude $14 million per, and he's and you know what I'm saying, and he's playing 15 minutes, and you know what I'm saying, basically scoring 15 points, taking twos, taking long twos, you know what I'm saying?
18 shots to do it right now at this point.
Yeah. Oh man, Melo was great when he was out there. So had those two cats go down and get their thing done last night. I'm trying to think what else happened in the world of sports from yesterday, Benny, that I saw. We got the Masters getting ready to get kicked off tomorrow, so we're going to see if we can holler at our guy Fried Egg Paulie.
Mm-hmm.
Fried Egg thing threw me off, but I guess because the golf green looks like a fried egg. That's what I think it comes from.
Ah, is that where it comes from? All right, that makes sense. I thought he was just, if you called me Taylor Ham and Cheese Benny, I would understand. That's what I eat for breakfast every morning, so,
Really? I had one of those yesterday, son.
New Jersey, man. And anybody who calls it pork roll, you're a freaking moron. It's Taylor Ham. That's it.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. Because yesterday when I got out to FanDuel, I had to wait a little bit. I was gonna call you too because I was like, well, I go back to the 160 went through Union City.
Oh yeah, it goes right by my house.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, let me get back. I had to get to my nap, Benny. So I got there, so I had to wait for the 160 because it's like I got there. And then I got there, right? I got to Jersey. So the one that was going back to New York was like pulling up also. So I'm like, that means I have to wait to the next hour. So I had me a Taylor Ham and Cheese, you know what I'm saying? I had me the Jersey special, the Taylor Ham and Cheese,
baby,
and the Sierra Mist. And that was my brunch yesterday. But the thing about it is in Philadelphia, that's a pork roll.
Yeah, well, South Jersey, they call it pork roll in South Jersey. In North Jersey, we call it Taylor Ham.
Yeah, so there you go right there.
It's the exact same thing, too. For anybody who doesn't live in New Jersey, it's one of those things in New Jersey that we fight about all the time because everybody who lives, like, basically south of Newark in New Jersey, we just don't like them. They're just morons. It's been a problem for a lot. They root for the Eagles. They root for the Phillies. Like, they're, it's a different world down there in South Jersey.
No doubt about it. But right across the bridge in New York, I'm like, what the hell is a pork roll or Taylor Ham and Cheese?
Which is the thing that drives me nuts. Is like when I would go over to the city in the morning, I used to have to get bacon, egg, and cheese. Not that it's that bad, but like you ask for Taylor Ham or pork roll, egg, and cheese, and they look at you like, what, you want ham? And I'm like, just give me bacon, bro.
That's it. Our thing is the bacon, egg, and cheese. You ever had a bacon, egg, and cheese with jelly?
No. Why would you put jelly on a bacon, egg, and cheese?
Some people do it, Benny.
That's not a problem. I don't even like ketchup on it. I see a lot of people put ketchup on bacon, egg, and cheese in the morning. I'm just straight. Like, give me a bacon, egg, and cheese. Give me Taylor Ham, egg, and cheese. Those three things on a roll are good enough by themselves. You don't got to put anything else on it.
What did you think about Yes, last game, basically for Anthony Davis as a member of the New Orleans Pelicans. He wears the shirt. That's all, folks. To the arena. We never got a chance to discuss that. What do you think about how that? Once again, Rich Paul. What do you think about how that Anthony Davis situation played out?
I have no problem with it. And here's my whole thing with it too. I think New Orleans screwed this up more than Anthony Davis did, right? Because players are going to request trades and stuff all the time. It happens all the time. Like, it's not – Anthony Davis is not the first player to ever request a trade in the middle of a season. And the guy has a point. Is like you have had him there for a bunch of years right now, and you have never been able to bring in the pieces and build around him and make it a really good team. You haven't had a good coach there for him for a while. You haven't had a good organization around him. You haven't really had a lot of good players. Although I love Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday's a stud, but
another very underrated player.
Yes, and honestly, I wouldn't doubt if he wants to walk too, because what else have you done to kind of give them a winning environment? So I don't blame Anthony Davis at all in this situation. People are like, oh, man, well, he screwed himself by trying to talk his way out of town. No, if you want to be traded, you go to management and you say, trade me. Management has told him before that they're not going to trade him. So the only leverage he has is to go to the press and be like, I want to be traded. And the team is basically like, oh, you screwed us, so now we're going to stick it to you by not playing you. And he's like, all right, well, then I'm not going to play. Like, I'm not playing more than 25 minutes if you guys refuse to trade me. You can't let a situation get this toxic, right? Because not only is it bad for this situation, but it's bad for every future free agent you want to sign, as long as you're still the management team in charge. Because everybody's going to look and be like, remember how they did Anthony Davis? I don't want to go sign with them. Remember how they did Anthony Davis? I'm not going to go sign with them.
DeMarcus Cousins.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, when you have this many instances of you basically screwing over star players, why would any star player that's a free agent ever want to go sign with you? You're going to wind up getting the second-tier guys, because the top-tier guys are going to say, screw you. I don't want to go over there where, you're not going to bring me any help. You're going to have an incompetent coach. Because let's face it, I've been saying this for years. Alvin Gentry, liked him as a player, horrendous coach. Horrendous coach. He is horrible. But yet you haven't done anything to change that. You haven't changed the coach. Basically, you lose year after year. You don't make it year after year. You don't bring in new players. You don't make any changes in management. You don't make any changes in coaching. If you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity.
No doubt. Got to agree with you on that one. A lot of people thought that the Pelicans were done wrong in this situation. They're going to make Gail Benson get rid of that team, because obviously the focus there, and it makes sense. The focus should be for her and her business. The focus should be the New Orleans Saints, because the New Orleans Saints turns over money, and the New Orleans Saints can win the championship. The New Orleans Pelicans is not turning over no money. The arena stay empty, and they are nowhere near a championship. They may force her to move to sell that team.
Now, my biggest problem with it is, you knew that this whole Anthony Davis thing was going to be a problem, right? And they didn't want to make the move at the trade deadline, because I guess they thought they were going to get more for Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is like a generational type player. Who do you want to get for Anthony Davis? Like, people are not going to trade you their young generational talent for your older generational talent who's always injured. So really,
I was going to say, did you know the name that I was going to bring up to trade for Anthony Davis? Zion.
No, I wouldn't do it. As much as I love Anthony Davis. I love Anthony Davis. He's a very, very talented basketball player. But I'll take the 20-year-old version rather than the 27, 28-year-old version. And that's not a knock on him, but you're getting Zion on a rookie deal, which is going to be less than the deal that Anthony Davis is going to.
Anthony Davis is going to sign a mega deal. Yep.
Yeah, he's going to re-up for, 100-something million for 5 years or something like that. Whereas your rookie deal for Zion isn't going to be anywhere near that much. And again, if you get Zion at 18, 19 years old, now you have a couple of years to get the other pieces to build around him. Anthony Davis now needs to go play with a guy like LeBron. He needs to go to a team that needs him as the final piece. It's not like you go get Anthony Davis, right? It's not like you mortgage all your future for Anthony Davis now and then spend the next 3 years building around him and winning a championship 4 or 5 years from now. He needs to go to a spot where he's the last piece or the second to last piece that needs to be on that team that's already kind of built around him. He needs to go somewhere where they're ready to go compete for a championship now. Otherwise, again, you're going to waste 2 or 3 years of him, and by the time you're ready to compete, he's going to be on the decline in his career.
No doubt about it. Who would you rather have, Joel Embiid or Anthony Davis?
That's a tough one, man. I'm going to go with Embiid. Like, am I the GM of a franchise, trying to keep my job for 10 years, or am I a guy trying to win next year?
Trying to win next year.
Trying to win next year. I mean, you can make a better argument for Anthony Davis in that case. Longer term, though, it's Embiid, and it's
I think Joel Embiid has a couple MVPs in him. I don't know if Anthony Davis will ever be an MVP, but I think Joel Embiid can be an MVP player.
If Davis can stay healthy for a whole year, he could be an MVP candidate. The problem is we've just seen so often and so many times. Now, again, maybe it's because he didn't want to be in New Orleans. And maybe that's why it's like, you know how it is, man. If your back hurts a little bit and you don't want to go do something, you're not going to go do it. You're going to take off.
My back is killing me, son.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, we'll see next year if he gets to a place where he wants to be. We'll see if that's still the case. But to me, I've just seen so many injury history things and him not play full season so many times that I just don't have the faith that he ever will.
Before we get ready to get out of here, Benny, what should we be looking for in the NBA tonight? I know you all got to do the article and stuff. So what are some things that you think about going into it if you try to put our bets together, if we're going to hop in on this, what should be a strange night? I can tell you right now, I do like the Knicks to beat the Pistons tonight. I think Atlanta wins tonight over Indiana. The Clippers and the Jazz is an interesting game also.
So here's my problem with the Jazz. From what I'm looking at already here, when I was starting to do my research this morning, there's a whole bunch of Utah Jazz second and third team players popping up on a lot of, spreadsheets and optimizers and things that we put together because it looks like the entire starting five is going to be sitting. So you're basically playing the Utah Jazz without Donovan Mitchell, Ricky Rubio, Joe Ingles, all the main guys are going to be
the JV Jazz.
Yeah, you're actually playing like the freshman team. Like they're playing like the freshman team today, the third string guys. So that's really what you got to look at DFS-wise and also for gambling, right? Like, so to me, when I'm looking at that game, if I know all those guys are going to sit out, I'm a little more likely to take a look at the other side of that game and, see if those guys are going to play.
Do the Clippers have anything to play for? Can the Clippers move up?
Yeah, they can. They're like the same record as San Antonio right now. I think they're a game behind OKC, but I think OKC has the tiebreaker. So at most, they move up from the 8th seed to the 7th seed. So I think they would need to win and they would need the Spurs to kind of lose. But that's really what you're looking at, right? Like tonight, like again, last night, why did we like Detroit and Charlotte last night? Because Detroit and Charlotte needed to win to stay in the playoffs. Not that – I mean, these teams are already in the playoffs in the West, but they're looking to move up. They're looking to get themselves a better seed. These are teams that are still motivated. Very few teams are still motivated to win today. A lot of guys are setting up their plane tickets back to wherever they live year round. They're setting up their golf, matchups for next week and stuff like that. If you play on one of these teams that isn't in the playoffs, you're not motivated to dive for that loose ball that's going out of bounds or to box out and get that extra rebound or give up your body to go to the basket and get fouled. The teams that actually have something to play for are. So gambling dollars wise, those are the teams that I kind of want to have my money on if I'm betting.
No, I agree with you on that one. Matter of fact, I said I like the Hawks tonight, but the Hawks, they haven't been playing their starters the past couple nights, have they?
Again, a lot of these teams right now are playing some of their guys and some of them are off. Like Trae Young was out the other day.
I remember that.
John Collins has been in and out of the lineup the last couple of weeks anyway. All the big guys are hurt for them. Like Dedmon's out already. I think Alex Len has been playing. They've been, using some of the guys on the bench. This is a really, really tough time of year for DFS and even for sports betting. There are certain games that you just don't want to touch. Like if you have no certainty on it, again, like we always say, right? The sports book has to put out a line. You don't have to bet it. So if you don't have any lean, just stay away from them.
One thing I will say the reason why I am putting the Knicks tonight and because the Pistons stink, and this is going to be, Benny, this is going to be the craziest thing that you've ever heard. You saw you talk about the teams that they don't have nothing to play for. They don't have no reason to win. The Knicks actually don't have no reason to lose.
It's true. I mean, I think they're locked into one of the worst records anyway. I don't think it makes a difference.
It's like the worst record, locked into the worst record. They hit that magic number like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? They screwed me last night too. Mario Hezonja has been playing point guard for them for the last week, putting up big fantasy numbers. So I played him last night, and then at 7:31, they announced that he's out after my lineup's locked on FanDuel. I'm sitting there with my 0 for Mario Hezonja. I'm like, come on, man. It's a guy who's been putting up like 40, 50 the last couple games. He had a triple-double. He had like 30 points and like 8 rebounds, 5 assists the other day. Like, you go look at Hezonja's game log. He's been putting up numbers lately. He screwed me last night.
All right, there you go right there. My big piece of chicken is going to go to the two guys that called it a career last night. Got to give them the Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade. What you got for us, Benny?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to do the exact same thing, to be honest. I don't think there's any way the big piece of chicken doesn't go to those two guys. They've entertained us for the last 20 years or so. Both all-time greats, both guys that are going to wind up in the Basketball Hall of Fame one day. You know, shout out to both Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki.
Don't forget Elite Fantasy Network. This is the Elite Fantasy Sports Network. This is the opening line. Make sure you subscribe right here on the YouTube page. I'm gonna give a shout out to all my Goonies, all the Elite Mafia crew. You know what I'm saying? Dane, I'm gonna have a big piece of chicken for you. Dane texted me yesterday. I was like, "Yo, can I have a big piece of chicken?" I get you a big piece of chicken, Dane. So there you go, right there. Don't forget, we get the Masters kicking off tomorrow. You got Benny doing the basketball. Got the homies checking out the baseball over at EliteFantasy.com. But for me, it's Benny right now. We are out.